Warm welcome to AYP Live, the show where we talk honestly about the things that shape young professionals, career, community, and everything in between. Tonight we're going to be talking about something that doesn't always get enough credit, and that's volunteering. Because while most people focus on promotions, pay rises, and job titles, sometimes it's the work you don't get paid for that shapes who you've become. So I'm joined by two incredible people who know that better than anyone else. And that's Graham Skinner, one of AYP's earliest committee members, known for his energy, commitment, and ability to make big ideas happen. And also Kim Stephen, another founding force behind AYP, whose leadership, empathy, and consistency helped turn a small volunteer network into a thriving professional community. Both have been part of Aberdeen Young Professionals from the start, giving their time and expertise for a number of years, not for a paycheck, but for something bigger. So we're going to talk about why they volunteered, what they've learned, and how giving your time can genuinely change the course of your career. So enough from me. Let's get the guys on and welcome Graham and Kim to the show. How are we, guys? How are we doing?
Great. Good evening, Ross.
Hi, Ross. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's Thursday night. We're almost getting closer to the end of the week there, so it's not too bad. Firstly, I want to say thank you for joining us, guys. And I was actually just doing a little bit of research to remind myself when you guys were actually on the committee. Because we're now coming up to our 17th year, believe it or not, next year. So a bit crazy. So I think you were both just in the 2013 intake when we did our first sort of committee run. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it sounds about right. I had to do a bit of sense checking myself, but that's maybe a post-COVID thing where you're trying to place when things happened. But yeah, a few years ago now.
I think I was just saying to the guys just in the green room there, I had to actually look back on Google Maps just to remind myself where we met when we did like the interview for the committee as well. And it was Mim, which was like a bar restaurant on Crown Street, which I think, if my memory serves me right, is now sold. It's like a Korean restaurant, I think, or like a Chinese restaurant. So yeah, I think we're showing our age now, guys. But I'll get it cracking over the questions anyway. So you are both right there from the start, like I said in the introduction. What made you say, yes to myself to volunteer with AYP? If I could start with yourself, Graham.
Yeah, great, Ross. So going all the way back to 2013, we'll do a bit of time travel. I've been working away internationally since graduating, and I just moved back to Aberdeen. And I knew that I needed to be doing a bit of networking and getting engaged with people. But actually, if I'm honest, the idea of turning up cold to an event and starting with that awkward small talk was really uncomfortable. It may be hard to believe now, but shyness was a real challenge back then. So for me, volunteering for AYP gave me that reason to be in the room, a starting point for conversation, and a commitment to attend, so I wouldn't feel like dropping out at the last minute when a little bit of nerves came in. And so as a volunteer, I also automatically knew people in the room. So it was really a little bit of self-interest that prompted me to reach out in the first place.
That's great, because if you haven't seen, Graham's been on the TV a bit of late, so we're quite good to have a star in our midst tonight. So, and how about yourself, Kim?
Well, I'm surprised. I never ever thought of you as shy, Graham, but things you'll learn, hey, But yeah, I think for me, so I'm probably we're quite opposites then when we think about it. I'm really quite social, so sort of always been part of different groups and different points, whether it was at school or uni or sports teams and things like that. It always just has seemed like something that's been really natural for me. I guess back in 2013, I was about 3 years into kind of my professional working career, if you like, and in my second job since uni, and I remember seeing the advert to kind of the call for applicants. It just felt like it was something that was really interesting to do and to take part of. And I do love meeting new people and just sort of, as I say, being quite social, whether it's in a work capacity, personal capacity. So yeah, it just sort of sparked my interest. And the rest, as they say, is history. Hey, we're still sort of 13 years down the line, still in touch with everyone, which is fab.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's been great to also keep in touch and see how we've all kind of grown professionally and grown a little bit older as well. That's what always happens, I suppose. But it was great. We kind of realised in the early days, from people that don't know too much about AYP, it was started off by myself as a LinkedIn group to kind of really help young people to network with other young professionals, but also get in front of decision makers as well. And as it transpired in 2009, I then got a job abroad. So David Taylor then helped me out. So when I came back to Aberdeen, we used to run events between then, and it did grow a little bit arms and legs. So we had to kind of then get a committee together to help us put our events as they grew and got a little bit bigger as well. And a lot of people do ask me this question, which I'm going to ask you both: is did you ever imagine that the AYP would grow into what it is today? If I could start with yourself on this one, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's always hard, isn't it? I mean, there's such a buzzing community in Aberdeen, the two unis, the college, etc. Such a diverse range of different places to work and different careers in different sectors. And I guess it was kind of set up for success, but it needed someone to drive it. And I guess, it's great that the kind of how it's come on leaps and bounds, right? Even now, the events that they're doing are, probably much bigger and more frequent than perhaps when we first started out, but that's a testament to those that have played their part over the years. So yeah, it's maybe not a surprise, but I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think kind of with the right kind of steering and really active people involved across the years, then yeah, it just shows what actually the power of volunteering, how successful it can make things.
And what about yourself, Graham? Did you think that the group, when you obviously started and helped us out as well to get things rolling, what's that, 12 years later, it's still kind of growing and staying relevant in the city?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm surprised. I'm definitely delighted that it's still going well and that it's got fresh young blood driving forward all of its activities. But actually, I thought it was a bit of a phenomenon at the time. It was quite amazing that we ended up putting on events with big organisations such as APITO during National Oil and Gas Skills Week. We had the Energy Minister turn up at our events. You'd be pulling teeth now to get. I think we had a brilliant foundation for everything that came after it. And I think one of the great things about AYP sector specific, broadened my network outside of drilling, and because the committee was made up of people who had specific skills that supported all of the activities, it really was set up for success. I always remember how much I learned from you, Kim, about your vital input into all of the sort of commercial aspects of running events, what would work, how much we should pay for venues, whether it was a good price, how much we should negotiate price off, all that commercial understanding that actually underpins a lot of the work that I still do today. So, there was a huge opportunity there, and you'd seized it, Ross, and I was absolutely delighted to be part of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would totally agree with Graham's comments there, Kim. You definitely helped us out when obviously your background being in events at that point as well, just to really kind of help us get a grasp of, well, what's your cost? What's this? What's that? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And that really helped us out. I mean, in early days, which leads quite nicely to my next question to you both. And don't be afraid to be very honest when I ask you this question. But what were those early days like for yourself? Was it kind of like chaos, excitement, organisation, or was that just like a mixture of all three? Kim, what's your thought?
I guess, yeah, it's so this was my first sort of volunteering experience. First off, it's probably worth saying that. I guess my role when I joined the committee was in that kind of events and sort of social coordinator sort of piece, wasn't it? So I guess you could say I was kind of playing to my strengths in that first role, which was maybe a deliberate choice, because that was like my comfort zone in a new organisation with different people when you're trying to deliver, different things with a different team. Yeah, it maybe was a wee bit chaotic. I do remember things before. You don't, because it was my day job as well as kind of helping out kind of sort of out with work. You forget sometimes that you don't necessarily have that commercial team behind you, as in, that big, that the marketing department is going to do this is going to do that. You're all kind of picking up different things in your own times, out with kind of your working hours. And that does create a little bit of chaos in a good way. It was great fun. I mean, I always remember maybe we weren't very good at our timekeeping, because we always have a wee committee meeting, a little get together, somewhere social, maybe a catch up over a beer or wine. And I was always a bit later than I expected to be home. But it was always a really enjoyable experience. So for kind of that, I guess, maybe slightly looser planning than I might have done in my day job, it was also very enjoyable with everyone on the journey as well, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And what about yourself, Graham?
Yeah, I mean, we always look back on these things with rose-tinted glasses, right? And there is a couple of pinch points that I still remember around commitments to venues and finances and whatnot that got a bit tricky. But in reality, really how I remember it is a really hopeful time. We were all at the beginning of our career. We still had a lot of idealism, perhaps a little bit of naivety, but we set out and just to get after it. And that was a really nice vibe that I still remember about that time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really good time. I mean, I think the city was still relatively buzzing around that point as well, and it was great to get a lot of young people involved and getting them to meet with new people as well. And the next sort of areas I wanted to kind of really cover with you both was looking at like the real value of volunteering. And people often see volunteering as sort of like extra work. What did you feel that you personally gained from volunteering through, whether it's just AYP or other volunteer organisations you've worked with? Ken, if I can start with you.
Yeah, I would say, there's definitely like a whole bunch of core skills that you get from this. And I don't know if you necessarily realise it when you go into it. For me, as I say, I was in an events role and I took on an events role. So there was a bit about cementing my kind of confidence out with my norm, which I think, you do that with people when you're not used to working with them all the time, and you can share knowledge with them and vice versa, learn from other individuals. The power of the network is massive. And I don't just mean the committee network. I mean, that's kind of a nice close-knit group that we were all really fortunate to be part of. And, the three of us and a couple of others, I still see sort of maybe infrequently, but still see them to this day, which is great. So I think that kind of increased network, that kind of confidence in what you're doing, and just meeting new people. I just don't think you can actually sort of place a true value on how many people you come across in different walks of life that you then cross paths with again, maybe 5 or 10 years down the line. And I just think it's a really positive experience. And things, you remember, like I was an Aberdonian sort of through and through, Aberdeen Quine, worked and lived in Aberdeen. Graham saying he was sort of, had worked abroad and come back. And, Aberdeen is a very international city. So the fact that we, as a committee could put events on or things on, or just even that group together to help with people coming in to the destination that are new, you don't probably realise the value that it places, on the kind of the welcoming nature of our city to them. So I think there is a bit about giving back, like, and feeling good about that. And then maybe that's just a kind of local kind of aspect. You want people to think positively about the city and the destination. But a huge amount of individual things for me as well, as I say, around confidence in that network building, like in really early stages of my career, which was great.
Yeah, no, thanks, Graham. What do you think you personally gained from it as well, Graham?
Yeah, so actually I think this is really a really important bit to spend a bit of time on, to be honest, because I think the first point to say is there can be a lot of extra work. Volunteering is not an easy ride, and no matter how much you think that you've committed to in volunteering, you'll always end up doing more than that. So, there is an important aspect there, but you do tend to get out more than you put in, and that's also worth bearing in mind. It's a bit like a gym membership. If you don't go and sweat at the gym, you're not going to get anything out of it. And actually, currently, the volunteering I do with the Society of Petroleum Engineers Aberdeen is extensive and involves travel at my own expense and lots of meetings and coordinating and whatnot. But what I get from it, well, I've got a strong sense of civic duty, so I feel like I really should be doing something. So I'm always going to be busy volunteering, doing something. But I do lots of different things. Not only things like AYP or work related, but actually other things. So the community art projects I've been involved in, especially during the recovery from COVID, they were another level, really connected in with the communities that suffered the greatest during those experiences, and understood about how community spirit brought people together during that time. And they're really grounding experiences. So, no career development, but really important sort of personal understanding. I volunteered with New Art Aberdeen, one of the biggest street art festivals in Europe. Just an amazing experience socializing with, people who are regarded as the gods of street art when they came to the city, and even ended up with some personalized, artwork through that. So those things are great experiences, and it gives me a network completely outside of the commercial realm where I work, which is really nice. There are people which I feel very fondly about. But in general, if you're doing something like AYP, well, what it's great for is it's a great place to test out those skills you might not necessarily use day to day in your day job. We touched on that commercial aspect, Kim, the event organising, you're managing budgets, you're leading people, which is really, really important. And through SPE Aberdeen, it gives me access to a really great senior professional network. Now, I might maybe be growing into being part of that senior network now, and I'm making new connections with younger people. But there's a natural progression there, and that has made a huge difference in my career. Some of the things I've done with SPE have benefited my career very, very directly. But the thing I think that's so important about this is that when you volunteer, you create meaningful relationships with people because you work together on a common challenge and you build trust working towards a common purpose. And these are relationships which will last your whole career, regardless of the size of the voluntary project you contribute to. These connections are so powerful, and they really, really are the sorts of people you can ask for a favor anytime at the drop of a hat because you've collaborated together. And you can't make connections like that just through turning up at an event or doing some low-level LinkedIn networking.
Yeah. I mean, if I was to ask you, Kim, I mean, it's like, if volunteering literally ever opened a professional door that you didn't expect, from doing your volunteering work that you've done, not just with AYP, but in other organisations as well?
I guess so. Another bit of volunteering I've done was through the Career Ready Network, which is a sort of a social mobility charity helping to prepare young people, I guess in school, like an academy age, for the world of work, and helping to increase their chances of maybe having a positive destination, when they finish up their studies. I was asked to be a mentor one year to a young person, and I remember thinking at the time, and this was probably shortly after, maybe a year or two after I'd been on the committee with AYP, I was asked to be a mentor, and I thought, I'm still young. I'm still a young person myself. I'm not sure what I can share with this young person. What value and insights will I have? I've not been working that long. But even after working 3 or 4 years in a business, I surprised myself perhaps that, how much you could share with them, after having a couple of jobs and just exposure to the workplace. And I think for me, that definitely helped from like a line management perspective, kind of more generally for my career. I think at that point I did manage one other individual, but the team that I was working in then did slowly start to grow. So that, I guess, gave me a new sort of perception on my skills as like a team leader. At what I thought was quite an early stage in my career, but I just didn't realize I had them until I was prompted perhaps to do a bit of volunteering, ironically. So that's probably the biggest one for me. That's kind of, I guess, stood me in good stead for other roles.
Yeah. What about yourself, Graham?
So, I mean, on loads of occasions, and actually I was trying to think of a direct opportunity, but actually it's mostly the indirect opportunity. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was in Amsterdam speaking at an SPE panel on well integrity. Now, I would regard myself as an expert on that topic that we were talking about yesterday, very well placed to talk about it. But actually, my connection with that committee is sort of indirectly through SPE Aberdeen. And it just keeps you in people's mind, I think, which is really helpful. It just keeps that network alive because you've got these regular contact points of committee meetings, etc. Also through SPE, I appeared in a video for their 50th anniversary with a cheeky little soundbite about, I think it said something like, you can't afford not to be an SPE member. Do stand by that. But the company that did the filming then subsequently got in touch with me to appear in another video about decommissioning, which again, is a great opportunity to again demonstrate what I know technically. So I think it is about being positioned well to take the opportunities, these indirect opportunities as they arise.
And I mean, how have you guys found that it's shaped whether it's like leadership or your communication or your confidence? If I can ask you, Kim, to start with, have you felt it's affected any of those kind of 3 core areas?
Absolutely. I mean, we mentioned it at the beginning, it was quite full on and maybe a wee bit chaotic at times. People are finding their feet with the kind of the volunteer role, but also with new individuals and teams as you kind of form that relationship with new contacts, right? That can be a wee bit like herding cats sometimes, for all of us, depending on what role we're playing. And I think it just makes you more adaptable, and it makes you more aware of others and how you interact. So 100%, I think from a communication piece, it's, I think I said earlier, you're not backed by like the organizations, like in your workplace. Like with all your S drives and all your community, you're using your own sort of kit, you're using your own equipment, you're sharing files between each other as you need to make sure. So you have to find sort of additional ways to communicate that is out with, say, a larger organization or that kind of really formal structure. So it makes you adaptable, and it definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, helps in those core skills.
Yeah, because I think for you guys are obviously in the committee in the very, very early days, and I think when we were also then going around knocking on doors to go, we're AYP, and they're going, who? Can we want to help the young professionals? I mean, now the work that obviously we've done in the early days has helped. I would say definitely committees that came after. The committee that you guys were involved in as well, because that communication, that confidence, that leadership from the chairperson of the committee all the way through the committees as well that helped us over the years has really helped grow AYP, which I'm obviously particularly very proud of that they've managed to do that as well. And how have you kind of found it, Graham, in your line of work? Has it helped your leadership, communication, and confidence as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So focusing on leadership, I think one of the most interesting things about working in a voluntary organisation is there's not really a boss or a hierarchy. There's no authority for you to get people to do what you want them to do. So actually, even as a chair, you're not really the boss. You're just the coordinator. So you've got to work with people and influence them to carry out the tasks that you need done. And influencing people is probably one of the most important leadership skills. If you have the ability to bring people together, to create a bit of a common purpose for you, to pull people together and have them want to work and want to deliver for you as part of this is absolutely fundamental. And if you can start to get experience in that at an early point in your career, even better, because it takes a long time to develop that understanding to become a respected leader, where you bring people along with you naturally, as opposed to telling people what to do. And even in the world of business, whether I was a regulator influencing good practice, or the job that I do now, where I'm influencing across a whole industry, it is absolutely around that influencing piece that you learn through volunteering, and it's a great place to build those skills.
Because that's it. Again, leads nicely to the next question I was going to ask you both was, what's kind of one skill or lesson from volunteering that you still use every day in your career? Kim, if I can ask you first, what do you think?
Could I have two? Would that be okay?
You can have two, yeah.
So I guess the first one, you guys would remember when we did the video way back in the day for kind of promoting AYP and what have you. I'd never really done any media training or anything like that. So yeah, when I first saw that final edit back, realised that I spoke at the camera with my chin really high, and it was just really awkward. But you never notice it until you actually see yourself. So there was almost a little bit of indirect media training as part of that induction process that we had, which was great. And I guess in my last job when I was at P&J Live, there was a piece just following, I think we're kind of in the midst of the COVID pandemic and had been the vaccination centre, and we'd been asked to do a piece to BBC News. So our MD at the time wasn't in Aberdeen, so I would do that. And I guess it's funny, you look back on how you learn these skills and what to do, what not to do as well. So that's been something that's kind of, with a bit of a wry smile, I've definitely learned and taken forward in my career. I guess the other thing I would say, and this is more sort of an experience thing from working with people. Everyone's a volunteer in their nature. People are doing it for different reasons or have a common purpose or what have you, but you're giving up your time. As we said at the beginning, you're not paid. The one thing I would say is working in a volunteer group is a really enjoyable experience if everyone's pulling together for the same reason. We've probably all been there when there's maybe one or two people that haven't maybe been on the same page, and I'm not talking AYP, I should say, but I guess maybe in other experiences I've come across and excuse my language, but don't be a dick. We're all on the same page. Let's all pull together. Let's all help each other, air your concerns, share your opinions. It's okay to disagree, but let's, be good at the core of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and be fair and respectful to others. So I guess that's something that I've kind of taken forward as well, as to how you work with people and just, I guess, understanding people's different perspectives in different ways. So yeah, I think that's been a bit of a motto for me as well.
There's got a message here as well, Kim, from Dave Taylor, who's obviously, he was with me in the very early days of the AYP, saying, "Evening, guys, it was great to see some of the OG committee. That video is still pinned on his profile." So there you
Love
go.
it.
Love it. Evening, David.
So what about yourself, Graham? What kind of since Kim had two, you can have two as well. But what skill or lesson have you?
I've already mentioned influencing, and I can't restate that enough. It's a really, really important skill. But I think the other thing I would say, if I was to have a fresh one, it would be being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I think that's really underpinned a lot of what I've done in my career. It's about saying yes to things because you know they're going to be uncomfortable. You also know that it's a good thing to do. And so there's a little bit of mindset there. And whether that is doing your first ever YouTube live like tonight or saying yes to a TV interview like I did on Thursday. I think it is an underpinning, and maybe that is a confidence from having taken on things in the past that you didn't really know that you had the skills to do and were able to deliver them. But I would thoroughly recommend getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Brilliant, because I was actually just wanting to read out. I got a message after, obviously, for some people that are watching. We had our AYP ball this Friday past, and I want to say this as well again. The committee absolutely smashed it. They did a really, really good job. And I got a message through from an attendee, and he said I can use his name as well, and his name's Harry Humble. Harry, if you're watching, please drop us a note in the chat. He just said to me, this was what makes it all worthwhile, I think, for me, with AYP, is he attended the AYP ball at Union Kirk on Friday. Just wanted to say that what you've built with Katie and the rest of the team is something so incredibly special, and it's the aspiration to be a part of an organisation like AYP that boosted my career journey tenfold. Without getting into details, it also brought me out of a pretty bad place last year, and for that I will be forever grateful. I look forward to next year's ball and seeing what the AYP committee do next. And he's also asked us to reach out to speak about all things recruitment, to see if I can help him as well from my own day job. So I'm more than happy to do that. But for me, those are the kind of things that just makes it all worthwhile when I get messages like that directly or through the AYP emails, for example. I mean, if you guys could summarise like the biggest unexpected benefit of volunteering, what would you say it would be? Kim, if I could start with you.
Putting on the spot, but the biggest part is a biggest unexpected benefit. Is it unexpected? Maybe not. It's the people for me, the relationships. And, you know, Graham, we joked during Offshore Europe this year, we couldn't shake each other off at one point. We'd rock up at every event and there you were, you saying hi and catching up. But it's just really, really lovely. You know, it's not, it's not just the relationship that you build when you're actually on the committee. It's the longevity of that and how paths cross 10 years down the line, or how you can support each other. I mean, that feedback's amazing from the event. And, you know, the power of events generally, I think, is such a strong, we saw during COVID, didn't we, when we couldn't get together and couldn't kind of network and spend time with people that we cared about. You know, getting together with people is an amazing thing to do. And it is such a positive experience for everyone, no matter what's happening in their world. So I think the fact that, you know, you get feedback like that is brilliant. But for me, it's the people and the long-term relationships that have existed as a result.
Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Graham?
Yeah, so, I mean, very, very simply, I joined wanting to network and make business connections, and I ended up making friendships. And I don't think you can ask for any more than that.
Yeah, no, I think you've 100% nailed that as well. And it's also been great for us guys to have kind of caught up, because we're all kind of busy people now as well. And it's been great to kind of catch up when we're discussing to put this together. And what I want to look at now, what's like volunteering, is really kind of about the challenges of volunteering. Also, giving time for free sounds great, but it's not always easy. What were the hardest parts for yourselves? If I could start with you, Graham.
Yeah, so not everyone ends up being a good volunteer. Some people drop out, some people overcommit and don't deliver. And that can be frustrating, and you can feel let down. Sometimes I've expected 5 people to turn up to maybe do a career stand, and I've ended up spending the evening on my own. So I think it is frustrating. I think that sort of level of frustration, and you have to dig pretty deep in your pot of empathy to try and put yourself in those other people's shoes. So what I always try to do to try and counter that is to try and be very upfront about what volunteering entails and what the commitment is, to try and help manage that initial expectation.
And what about yourself, Kim?
I think for me personally, it's been the time. You know, as we mentioned, when I first joined the committee, I was in an events role. Events isn't a 9 to 5. You know, it's 5:30 starts in the morning. It's sometimes finishing at 10 o'clock at night. It's long days, and you know, I guess people are often, and everyone's like this in their day job, they're busy. There's a lot going on, for that work that you're paid for. So actually the fitting in with everything else kind of around about it can sometimes be quite tricky. But I guess they do always say, if you want something done, give it to someone who's busy, right? So you end up finding a way to fit it in. But sometimes, especially in the run up to whether it's an event or a particular session, it's a pinch point, isn't it? And it's just, trying to get everything done in time. But so probably the time for me, I think.
Yeah, I think time is a big element now, and I think we'll have a dad of 2 girls as well. And I better tell the future committees to watch out, because my eldest wants to take over AYP. She wants to be involved as well. So she's got good aspirations for that. She's only 12, so she's a wee while to go yet, but we'll see how she gets on. But that time can be one of the main considerations. And it was great. I just got the message through here as well from Harry, whose message I read out earlier. He's saying he's taken away a lot of takeaways from tonight's live. And that's what the lives are all about. It's just kind of just inform our members on just a variety of topics as well. And he wants to say thanks for sharing his message, and hope it encourages others to step out of their comfort zone. 100%, Harry. I mean, that's what it's all about. And I think all three of us can say that. I think we weren't all the finished articles, far from it. We're all learning from each other. I think is probably one of the key takeaways that I personally had. I learned a lot from both of you. I've learned a lot from all the committee members we've had from the early days right through to even just now as well. I still take a lot away from our current batch of volunteers as well. And how do you? Because I've kind of probably I've given you my kind of viewpoint, but how do you guys balance volunteering with careers, family, and just life in general? Graham, can I start with you? How do you manage it?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to start with maybe a bit of an unpopular opinion. And I'm going to say never have more free time in your life than when you're a young professional. Now, I know that young professionals hate to hear that, but get busy volunteering when you have the time, and volunteer doing lots of different things, because, make hay while the sun shines. You'll find that one group or that activity that you're supporting that really resonates with you, that you want to do throughout the rest of your career. And if you're really enjoying it, it makes it much easier to give your time to these things. But there does need to be a balance. You can't burn out. You can't just give endlessly. And I'll give you a really clear example of that. In the last 8 weeks, with the particular workload I have on in my day job, I was really worried about being able to do my volunteering role. And in fact, I had to put up a distress flare and ask the overall chair of SP Aberdeen to help out. And that was, I can't do anything. No, I can't do a little bit, or I need another person. I can't do anything for about 8 weeks. And one of the great things about it was that the whole committee came round and supported and stepped in, and they picked up all of the activities that needed to be done to keep everything on track, to support the students coming through that were my responsibility. So I think one of the things is, do put the time in early doors in your career, because then you'll build the relationships where you can ask for help later on, but also know when to draw the line. And actually sometimes you will have to say no, and saying no is a skill in itself.
That's a great answer, Graham. What about yourself, Kim?
Yeah, I think it is hard. I mean, I don't have kids. Like even now in my career, balancing my own life is quite difficult, let alone adding other bits and bobs in. But actually, you somehow find a way. You've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to be kind of realistic. I think, as Graham said, saying no is difficult, and that sometimes you have to for your own sanity. And I guess you have to just prioritize. At certain points, depending on what your job is and what you're responsible for, you'll have certain points where you think, I just, this is my focus and it has to be at this point in time. So you got to be honest about what you can then give as part of volunteering, if it's kind of like competing and conflicting deadlines. And like Graham says, like everyone pulls together, which is the important thing. It's a team at the end of the day. You're doing it and you're stepping forward because you enjoy it and you want to give back and you want to develop yourself, right? They're kind of the general kind of common themes. So if other people in that situation aren't willing to kind of lend a hand when they can, you question everyone's, is everyone doing it for the same reasons? And I think it is just difficult, whether it's work life, family life, sporting commitments, kids, families, friends, whatever it is. But you've just got to be conscious that you don't, I guess, overcommit yourself when you sign up to say yes to whatever that is.
Yeah. I mean, I'll ask you as well. I mean, I think Graham's kind of alluded to a little bit in his last answer, but have you ever felt undervalued or burnt out from, giving too much? Ken, I'll ask you just now, but have you ever felt like that?
I don't know if undervalued. Definitely burnout. That's a kind of common one, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But gosh, I think it's fair to say you get those spells where you just think, gosh, that's a lot, and not quite sure how we did the last couple of weeks, and sometimes deadlines just land on the same week or the same month, and they don't evenly spread out across the year, do they? There's always these pinch points. I don't think I would say I've ever felt undervalued deliberately so. I guess sometimes in stress situations, when even in a paid, organization, not just volunteering, but sometimes in stress situations, people can kind of, I guess, they go tunnel vision on their own job or their own task because they just need to get that done. And that can sometimes be perceived to others as like, well, mine's is more important than yours. What I'm doing is bigger or has greater importance than what you're focusing on right now. And I think it just makes you appreciate different sort of tasks and different roles, and I guess helps you to understand people kind of in their skill set a bit more. But I'm fortunate, I don't think I've ever felt undervalued. I think there's always been that kind of, even for there's always niggles, isn't there, or you kind of have a wee kind of moment with someone. That's just life. We're all human at the end of the day. But no, I think I've been lucky that everybody I have volunteered with, at least you guys, have been a pleasure to volunteer alongside.
I'm glad you put that little bit at the end there, Kim. Thank you. How about yourself, Kim? I know you alluded to a little bit in your last answer there, but have you ever felt like that?
So, I think I felt more undervalued with the various day jobs I've had when you've done something over and above what you regard your core role, and somebody just, says, thanks, that's fine. And that's probably because it's salaried work and you were always expected to do a little bit more. In the volunteering scenario, I think people are much more understanding, actually, and much more appreciative of your effort. So, actually, I've always felt really valued in the volunteering space. Yeah, sometimes a volunteer doesn't turn up that you expect, or somebody doesn't deliver a piece of work on time. But as Kim says, we all pull together, and ultimately, I think trust is a key part of volunteering. That is what makes it such a strong relationship as well. And usually, I wouldn't ask somebody I didn't know well, or hadn't built that trust up with, to do a critical activity anyway. So I don't think we get let down very much in the volunteering space. And Kim did touch on that. Sometimes people have slightly conflicting priorities, but I don't necessarily feel that's an issue in deliverables. I tend to feel that more of a tension in a board meeting or a group discussion where you're all fighting over the same budget or for this for the same projects or whatever, and that can be uncomfortable. But we typically are dealing with the grown-ups, and I don't have too many issues with it.
So next bit is obviously you've got maybe like a bit of an exit strategy as well, because volunteering, it's not a job, you're not getting paid for it, and how do you decide when it's time to take that step back, whether it's AYP or other organisations, and let others take the reins? Because I know that's something that a lot of people ask me personally. I'm still doing it almost 17 years later, but it's kind of my little baby, shall we say. I still like to kind of keep it going. It's still relevant. There's still a demand for what we do. Great. And I like to help out the young professionals that are coming through on the committee as well. And I hope they don't take it the wrong way sometimes I'm interfering. But I just like to kind of give them through the kind of mistakes that likes of us three have done in the past, or what we learned from that, so that it helps them do future things. What about yourself, Kim? When have you had to make that one? I know we've had that conversation when you were at AYP. You said, look, I think you're one of our longest serving at almost 5 years as well. How do you decide when it's time to step back and let someone else take the reins?
I think it's important to remember, I guess, why you started volunteering to begin with, isn't it? And I think, when I said, the AYP committee was the first sort of volunteering piece that I'd done. And it was sort of, I guess, building that confidence and cementing what you do and how you do it with a team out with, your own. And that was a big thing for me. So I guess after that kind of spell of doing sort of that event role, which was my day job, I guess you get to the point where you think, well, this is my day job, and this was me personally, this is my day job, and this is my volunteer role. And I'm feeling a lot more confident, and, made some great connections along the way, had a fantastic time. Sometimes it's just time for somebody else to have kind of their ideas and sort of put their sort of best foot forward and take on a different role. And I guess that in turn makes it time for you to step back. I think one of my next volunteering sort of roles I went on to do, like maybe a couple of years after I left AYP, actually, was with the Chamber of Commerce Vanguard project. And I remember specifically saying, because at that point I was still in an events role in my day job, when I volunteered, I said, I don't want to do the events role. Like, I don't want to do that bit. So for me, I guess the stepping back was around kind of achieving what you kind of set out to achieve, but then also giving people the opportunity to step forward and for them to, someone leaving gives somebody else an opportunity ultimately, doesn't it? So it becomes time that actually that's quite a good thing to do for you and for others. But it also, I guess, opened other doors for me in other volunteering aspects where I could then hone different skills and try something different and, take on a completely different role in a different sort of group. So I think that was kind of key features for me when it came time to kind of try something different.
Yeah, because I would say that AYP has essentially got every committee member and every probably attendee from our events has got their fingerprint on it. It's got a legacy element from it. From what I kind of started and envisaged the group was going to be way back in 2009, it's completely went different angles, and it's been great to see it happen. And that's all, from the volunteers that have been on the committees as well. They've all had their massive little impact, whether you were with us for 6 months or 5 years. It wouldn't be where it is today without volunteers. So it's been great to have everyone on board. And I mean, Graham, from your perspective, how did you decide when it was time to take that step back?
Yeah, well, I mean, my wife had to have a child, so I had a good excuse to leave AYP. But joking aside, sometimes there's life changes that just come with you, and you have to balance work life. But actually, in general, continuous volunteering in a particular role, sort of in perpetuity, is an absolute killer. And what I see where people aren't doing a good job in volunteering is often because they are just a bit worn down. They've done the same thing for years and years, and they've never been able to leave because no one else has stepped up to take on the role. And I think, organizations should be structuring themselves to avoid that. So, for example, they should have a good program to generate fresh volunteers. So how do you reach out and bring new people into the organization? Do they have a succession planning program? So do they have proper co-chairs, and do they have a structure whereby people are taking on responsibility so they can move up through the co-chair and chair position? I think fixed or limited tenure is a great idea for chairs, so that they know that there's a finite length of time that they're committing to, and they know that there's a way of getting out of it. And as you say, that change in people brings in new perspectives, and it keeps the energy going. So I think all of that's really important. And if you are part of one of those systems that has kind of a fixed tenure, I think actually trying to stay the course is important too, because that helps with the succession plan and keeps the organization going. And then also stepping down when the time comes, rather than clinging on until a particular project's finished or something comes up. So I think there's a balance between the individual and the organisation, essentially, in terms of making that work well.
Yes, I mean, we're just obviously coming to the end of the interview tonight. I mean, it always goes very fast, and let's have a look at the ripple effect, is what I want to call it, with volunteering. I mean, obviously, AYP supported hundreds, probably if not thousands, of young professionals over the last almost 17 years. What impact do you think volunteering's had on Aberdeen's professional community overall? If I can ask yourself, Kim, that one first of all.
I mean, we heard earlier, didn't we, just about the example of the ball. The ball wouldn't have been brought together if you didn't have the volunteers there to deliver it. Everyone loves a good get together and a good night out, but not everybody wants to be the organizer, right? So for the team this year to deliver that, and I think it was sold out if it's all right. So that doesn't happen by chance. It happens by hard work, and that is, I guess, an example of how you bring together the community and different age groups, different walks of life, different careers, like Graham said earlier. It's not sector specific. It just creates these sort of cross-sectoral sort of connections across the community, different people from different walks of life. And I think you can't put a value on that. Like, it's so important. And to hear it's had sort of a positive experience on one individual, I'm sure many others in other ways, it makes it worth it. I'm sure the guys that put in the long hours and the late nights and sort of all the sort of sessions, kind of catching up in between their meetings and sort of day jobs, when people, appreciate that and they have a good time and they show up in their droves, raise money for charity as well. Do you know, it's all these good things happen because volunteers step forward and say yes. So yeah, lots of different aspects I think that we should be thankful for in the volunteering side. And look at the success of Celebrate Aberdeen. You know, it in itself celebrates those individuals who step forward, whether it be for sort of charities or not-for-profits, or simply sort of volunteer organisations. Our community depends on it in so many different ways. So yeah, we definitely need volunteers, and I would encourage people to do it if they don't already.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's been, you'll probably recall as well from you guys' times on the committee when we've collaborated with other volunteer organisations to kind of join forces and share the, I'm not going to say burden, it's just the organisation
Load.
with your kind of the challenges, especially like the ball. And that's what I was saying to the current committee. From make sure you enjoy yourself in the evening too. Because I actually sent them a picture from the first one in 2017 when there's a few of the committee members at the time, they were looking a bit more happier because I think we had a few more drinks by that point because you knew it was going well and you could just
relax.
It's like is anyone going to come to my party type scenario? Even though the tickets are all sold out, is everything going to go okay? Is everything going to go right? Is is the entertainment going to turn up? No,
all the event stresses.
Yeah. So I mean, it's great to do that. I mean, so Graham, for me, what do you think's been the impact on the city with the overall community as a whole?
Yeah, so I mean, I always try to be a bit humble in this space, but building on what Kim said about Celebrate Aberdeen, I think we fundamentally underestimate the value of volunteering across society in general. And around the country and Aberdeenshire, we've got volunteer firefighters. The RNLI is voluntary. We've got volunteer carers, befrienders, first responders. They have such a huge social impact. In fact, they're absolutely vital. So for us in AYP, we're sort of saving the world one cocktail networking at a time. It doesn't maybe feel quite as impactful. But in reality, it's a very accessible platform. There's no threshold for entry. It's not snobby. It's not elitist. You can find it very easily. And if you come to Aberdeen and you're looking to, which can be a very dark, grey and lonely place in the middle of winter time, and you find a group of people who are prepared to take you at face value and get to know you, then that really is actually a really important thing. So at the same time as being humble, I think we shouldn't underestimate that sort of thing. And the testimonials you've had tonight are a good demonstration of that important value for young people that come here for work.
So have either of you seen others' careers grow because of their involvement in volunteering? Start with yourself, Kim. Have you seen anyone in your kind of network whose careers have benefited and grown because of their involvement in volunteering?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned earlier about the first time I joined Career Ready as a mentor. And my young person that I mentored at the time was a lady girl. She's still young. Kirsten Hume. I met Kirsten when she was my mentee, and we went through the Career Ready program together and sort of introduced her to the world of events when I was working at the chamber and what have you. Kirsten has since gone on to be a mentor herself. So I guess she's seen the personal value that she had as an individual who, I guess, benefited from a mentoring program. And she took that step just the other year to step forward as a mentor and to pay it forward and to kind of share that with sort of another young person now that she's been in sort of her role for a few years and has had a few different experiences. So that was really positive for me to see, because I guess we've all probably been a beneficiary of a volunteer at some point, whether you realise at the time how you can then kind of help others as a result of having been part of that experience. We maybe don't always spot it there and then, but yeah, it's really nice that when you do realise that you've got something you can give back, that it's positive to do so. So yeah, that would probably be the one for me, seeing Kirsten kind of develop and sort of expand her network and kind of progress in her role and take a few sort of steps forward and kind of into a different sort of aspect away from events as well, more laterally, which has been fab.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. What about yourself, Graham?
I think it's always difficult to attribute anyone's success to volunteering on its own. I'm always amazed at the people that were in the AYP committee with us that either have got through some really tough times because they've got real resilience, and maybe the committee could could have given them some of that resilience, but also they might have had some of that themselves. And I always look at you, Kim, and see how great you're getting on. And then I also think, well, that's not to do with AYP. You'd have done that anyway. You're always going to be excellent. So it is quite difficult there. I think what I would say generally about voluntary service is it does shape how other people view us as individuals. People do pick up on and recognise that additional service that you put in. And as you go through your career, you get to a point in life where reputation actually really matters. And having a broad network of people who reach out and appreciate you with a strong record of reliable, community service ultimately significantly contributes to that overall reputation, and that can make a big difference in life in the long run. So you can never say that the volunteering itself is the one thing perhaps that's led to somebody getting on. But I definitely think it rubs off.
Yeah. No, because I mean, the nights went very quickly. We're on to my last question now, and I mean, one of the things that you just mentioned in your last answer there, Kim, was just about how do we pay it forward. And that was what my next question was going to be about. And I was going to revert back to like the first ball as well, when I was approached by, I don't know if maybe Emma Honeyman's actually watching or maybe watch it back. She approached me to be her mentor, and I thought, I'm not old enough to be a mentor yet. Well, didn't feel like I was. But no, she was in a place in her career as well where I thought I could relate to as well and helped her. And it was the relationship went really well because I actually hired her when I went at the company I was at the time as well, because she was very good and basically the characteristics I was looking for to help me in my job as well. And then she came on and joined the committee too, and then led the mentorship scheme. So it was great for me to see that somebody who had benefited from that as well, then taking the lead and asking to get involved, and then helping out and continue the mentorship scheme, which is still going with AYP as well. But how can people who've benefited from something like AYP pay it forward? Graham, if I can ask you first, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I think volunteering is probably the way to pay it forward because it's a win-win. The effort is short term, but the benefit develops over the longer term. So having that long-term view of why I'm going to work hard today is for that long term in the future. And to be honest, if I had my way, everyone would be asked about voluntary service in job interviews, especially for junior roles, and I'd be including it in personal development plans. I think it's a great developer for young professionals, and if I had a young professional reporting to me, that would be something I would expect of them. So I think getting ahead of that is really helpful. And there are more tasks in the world requiring volunteers than volunteers to do them. So we are never going to have a problem of having too many volunteers out there. So every little bit of effort is going to help. And it doesn't matter whether it's AYP or any other public service organization, you're going to make a difference. Your job is your job. That's the zero baseline. I would say to people, ask yourself what your societal contribution is. If it's zero, add a unit. If you're making a contribution, add another unit. What little bit more can you do just to keep things ticking over? And if we all do that, it'll make a huge difference.
Brilliant. And what about yourself, Kim?
Yeah, I think Graham's hit the nail on the head there, like volunteering yourself. And I guess we're talking young professionals and sort of events and kind of mentoring schemes and what have you. But there are so many different things. And I would say find something you're passionate about, find something you're really, really interested in and how you can make a difference. And it doesn't have to be much. It doesn't have to be a weekly commitment, a monthly commitment. It could be once or twice a year. And if everybody had that mentality that we all played our part, even in a very, very small way, then actually the sum of all parts would be huge. And whether it be for Aberdeen, for a particular kind of sector, whether it's for sort of more kind of sort of wildlife or whatever someone's interested in, like it's just finding something that they're passionate about and I guess shaping how they can make a contribution to that in a positive way. But yeah, I would just say it's a fantastic thing to do. As much as we spoke about, the challenges are there, and there's there is a time commitment, and it is sort of working with others and sort of learning new skills. And I love Graham's example of being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Sometimes it is that, but the reward is so much greater than all those hard parts. So I would encourage people to really consider how they can play their part too.
What a great way to end tonight's AYP Live. I mean, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been far too long for the three of us to have caught up. Well, we'll have to make it so long as next time. But I want to say thank you.
A reunion on the cards.
Well, that's yeah. I want to say thank you to you both for joining me tonight to speak about all things volunteering and how important it really is as well. Not only for professionally, but I think as well for me, it's been mentally stimulating as well to out with the day-to-day job is to get involved with an organisation that you just probably click with and you can help people. If people want to get in touch with either of you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way? Is it probably LinkedIn or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a shout on LinkedIn, send a connection. It's always great to connect. So always happy to build that.
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn's best for me too. I'd love to hear from people on that.
I was going to say, Graham, maybe after like a TV work that do through your agent now, do they? Or
in a couple of weeks, that'll all be forgotten and everyone will be back to complaining.
No, not at all. No, but guys, again, thank you very much for being on tonight, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, Ross.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you. Okay, well, the infamous AYP ball was last week, and I want to say a massive well done to the committee again for getting this across the line and ensuring everyone had a great time at our sold-out event. I personally was delighted to hear the team raised £3,000 for our chosen charities, Prostate Cancer UK and the Maggie's Centre. Charities that are very close to my family's heart just now as my dad continues his own personal battle against prostate cancer. Our next AYP Live is going to be a takeover, so more on that will follow soon, but it'll be our last one of 25. So I wanted to say a massive thanks to all my guests who have joined me during this year, and if you missed any, they're all available on our YouTube channel to watch back. So just to wrap up tonight, that was a great chat. It was great to catch up with the guys as well. Tonight's chat does prove something very powerful, and that is volunteering isn't just about giving, it's about becoming. And you might start out helping organising events, running a committee, or mentoring someone for free. Along the way, you pick up skills and connections and confidence that no job title can really give you. Volunteering teaches you how to lead when you haven't got the authority, or how to motivate people without money, but also how to care about something bigger than yourself. So in a world obsessed with getting ahead, maybe the real edge is giving back. So if you're sitting there wondering how to grow, start by showing up. It's the best thing. Offer your time, help out, because you never know who's watching, what you'll learn, or how much you're going to change in the process. Thanks for tuning in to AYP Live as ever, and remember, the best career investment you'll ever make might not be in your CV, but in your community. So until next time, take care, and I'll see you then. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to Aberdeen Young Professionals. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more events. Want to join us in person? Visit www.aypgroup.co.uk to find out what's next. See you there.